Welcome back to the 21st episode of Tides of Lore. My name is Robert Silva. I am one half of your host team, joined as always by my good friend Tim. How are we doing today, Tim?
It was a good week, man. I talked about getting 1800 last episode in PvP. Did it in 2 days. It was crazy how fast. I got my honor gear in 1 day and got 1800 the next day. Doing twos with Bub right now. We won our first 10 games in a row.
Well, that's good at least.
Yeah, dude. We're right off the bat, it started us at 1900 MMR, and we haven't played two since Dragonflight. So I don't know why it did that, but yeah, we were working them. It's evened out a little bit now, but yeah, dude, PvPing. Gonna get the mount with him, and then I'll probably do Mythic Plus after that. But what about you?
What are you looking at? 2400? Is that what the rating is?
No, 2400 would be sick. Don't get me wrong. I got 2100 in RBGs last season. 1800 was for the armor set. Then you just need to win games above 1000 rating for the mount. We're not getting gladiator mount.
I see.
And you can only get that in threes. I think you can.
Oh.
Yeah, and we don't really play unless you want to play with us. We were talking about that, but
I think I want to do Mythic Plus. I really do.
Okay.
So hit me up for that, but I don't PvP. World of Warcraft has too many buttons.
You just gotta know when to hit them.
I can't handle
it. It's a trading game.
And I don't.
It's a trading game. You see them, you pop one of your coolies. You know.
I just think WoW is a better PvE game.
I mean, I like both.
Than PvP.
I like both. I don't know.
I know.
Cool rewards from PvP. That's what really pushes me to do it. But it's fun once you get over the, initial learning.
I've been doing that initial learning for 14 years now.
What have you been doing?
I've been grinding. I think we last spoke, I said I was doing horrific visions. I got my backpack. I got my mount. I've just been doing what I can to go back and do my legacy farming for my mounts, my delves, because I also want that new camp that you get for finishing the delve season. Mostly just that. Getting guys up to 80 with time walking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been doing that too. Yeah, I've been playing a hunter. The one that I made look like Sylvanas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got my one shaman up. I've also just been running time walking with my godly twink level 12 shaman that just one-shots everything.
Still no time walking. What's that, Drake?
Yep, still no infinite time reaper.
Yeah, and still no.
Yep.
Oh, my.
Well, and I haven't really tried too hard for it. I do occasionally. I've been trying to get at least all of the time walking mounts for the 5,000 tokens each time it comes by. And I've been able to. I don't think I'm going to get this one this week because Warlords of Draenor dungeons take forever, regardless of how fast you do them.
Only a couple of them. I'll say the train one kind of sucks. Yeah. Other than the train one, I think the others are pretty fast.
I think I'll disagree. Well, at the very least, compared to things like if I were to just run TBC or even Wrath of the Lich King or definitely Classic, which Classic is at the start of next month, so I'm mentally saving myself.
Yeah, I'll run some with you.
It's time to get back to it.
I'll get some guys up.
I need them. I do hope that they change the dungeons that they have this week or this time around, because the same two instances of Dire Maul and all that shit would be rather disappointing.
There's only 5 per expansion. They don't change.
There's more than that for Classic at least.
Is it?
But
I don't know. Typically time walking is 5.
Strath Living Dead. There was Strath Living Dead, and there was
two different Dire
Mauls.
Mauls.
Both instances of Dire Maul.
Yeah.
And then there was...
Yeah, I forget the 5th one. But I think there's just one more.
It doesn't matter. Regardless, change it. Thanks. Anyway, if they don't, that's fine. But yeah, that's what's been up with me. And that's what's been up with you. Last week, we discussed some of the closing events that lead from the Burning Crusade into the Wrath of the Lich King expansion. Just some of the loose ends that we needed to tie up, I think, as you said. What do you remember from last week?
I remember Garrosh Hellscream, kind of his backstory, him getting sick, being in, what was he in, Magdar? What was that place called? I forget.
I think it's Garadar.
And just basically his struggle. Learned a little bit, he's the son of, Grom?
Yeah, he is.
Who is a pretty badass guy, and I see where he starts to get his ego from.
Yeah.
Talked a little about Auchindoun, and you know what I thought was cool is we talked about Auchindoun, and then it was time walking, and you go to Auchindoun before it's destroyed. Did you do that one?
Yeah. See, yeah, that one also takes fucking.
Right. But you know what I'm talking about, and it was just cool that
Yeah,
we're talking about it. And then of course I remember Auchindoun TBC, but then I was like, oh shit, this is Auchindoun, and it's cool just connecting the pieces now, just while I'm playing the game, and I'm seeing the things that we talk about. So yeah,
I think
it was cool to do that time walking dungeon and see Auchindoun before it got destroyed in TBC, right? By like summoning Murmur.
And I think Murmur. I do think that the Warlords of Draenor expansion is frustrating from a perspective of if you don't know a lot about the lore, but I do think having the opportunity to go back and see a bunch of stuff from a person who really likes the lore's perspective, it is a really cool expansion. So,
but if you don't know about, like me, the average player, I would say, right, who didn't learn about the lore, and I'm just going in to kill shit, right? And then there's not that much content.
As you should, King.
You know, I could see why people thought it was a bad expansion, but sure, if you're a lore head, it might be cooler. Which, but now I'm learning. It's cool. Yeah, I think we mainly talked about the loose ends a little bit. What about the Black Temple as well? But yeah, just tying up the loose ends in TBC, and now we get to everyone's. I mean, a lot of people's favorite expansion, Wrath of the Lich King.
Yes, indeed. That is what we're going to be moving into today. Right after we take a look back at some of the comments from last week. I do just have to say, you guys have shown a ton of support over this last week. We've blown, I think last time we spoke, I was like, yeah, we just barely passed 300. We are barreling towards 400 right now.
Let's go.
Thank you guys so much for that. We appreciate it. At our very first comment, we did have at Gumpwitch saying, the patch trailers from back in the day are also great sources for the lore and character backstories. Akama, the Black Temple, Zul'jin and Zulaman, Kael'thas and the Sunwell, all good storytelling and helpful, albeit antiquated. I'll be honest, I don't know what that word is. Visuals. Blood elves are my favorite. Corrupt, tragic elves, great work, boys, heart. And I did actually think about when they brought that up, I thought that was a really good point, because like nowadays when you get like a patch trailer or something like that, very rarely is it like some of the, one of the voice actors being like, they destroyed this, my home, and now we're doing this, and then so on and so forth, like how like the Sunwell trailer was and stuff. Dude, like
BFA
that.
BFA had the best ones, man. I remember getting hype for the BFA patch, like the Sarfang one.
Yeah.
Those, I feel like BFA had the best character trailer.
And I do agree. I even responded. I was like, as much as I love like the super well done cinema level like trailers and stuff that we get in our more modern WoW, it was nice to have back in the day somebody at least like fully breaking down for everybody what's going on. We did also have Venturesome 7782 saying on one of our shorts, I might start listening to the podcast. And I responded, this is your conscience speaking. Just do it. About 18 hours later, he comes back. I love this channel.
Let's go.
So, and we love you too, citizen. So thank you for watching.
Take the plunge.
We're happy to have you.
The water is fine. Get on
exactly.
in.
Lastly, we did have the returning Luke Len Bias 3964 saying, Blood Elves are great. My family was all Alliance, so it was cool to see their starting area and figure everything out by myself for the first time. The area where you meet the Scourge is such a good little area. I love the quest. I love the blue rep gear and Sylvanas showing up, giving her the pendant is very memorable. And I think we're going to talk a bit more about Sylvanas and that pendant and kind of the dynamic as we do move into Wrath of the Lich King. But yeah, we did mention back when we first discussed the Black Scar, just how fascinating of an area it is, even when we do actually get to playing it in World of Warcraft.
I mean, I remember, didn't they make a trailer or some sort of cinematic where like the Lich King came up to Sylvanas in the Black Scar? I swear.
There is the Sylvanas Warbringers trailer where it's like the 2D kind of slideshow style.
Yeah, even
there is also, I think, like a couple other trailers, like something similar where you can see it.
A lot of history, like it.
Yes, sir. And I mean, who doesn't love Blood Elves? I think they recently posted stats. Blood Elves are still just dominating for most played.
Yeah, I swapped to the RP server with Bub. And I'm not going to lie, I feel better than the other race. And I RP like it too. I talk down on trolls and orcs, and it's a good time, man.
That is pretty funny. Yeah, I had meant to level my most recent Death Knight that I ended up leveling on Wormrest, but I was stupid and it's accidentally on Dalaran, which okay.
It is what it is.
It's hard to change realms nowadays when I just have all the characters in front of me.
Yeah, you have to like specifically choose it, and it doesn't like tell you. But yeah, I know what you mean.
But that is what has happened last week and in this week. Like Tim said, it's time to move into the start of the Wrath of the Lich King, or rather, the events that lead into the Wrath of the Lich King, and then some of the Wrath of the Lich King. So let's get into that. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Tides of Lore on YouTube, or if you're on Spotify, leave us a 5-star rating. It really helps the channel and ensures you won't miss a moment of this adventure. Now let's get started. So Tim, I don't know if you know this, but there is actually a comic book that was released around the time of this expansion that is just about the Death Knights in World of Warcraft.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't either until I was looking into this episode and I found out that exists. And I read through it, and it is just the most edgy, action-packed, crazy shit that I've ever, like, they must have had The Matrix on repeat in the background while they were writing this comic. I guess manga, but
does it make you...
I will say, I thought it was really
Does it make you want to play a Death Knight and be an edgelord, or...
I'll be honest, I leveled that Death Knight all the way up to 70, and I don't think at any point I was like, wow, I'm having so much fun. Sorry, Death Knights. It's not for me, I don't think.
They were fun when Wrath came out, dude. I remember I swapped from Hunter to Death Knight.
Well, apparently, Unholy is, like, pretty good right now. So I was playing Unholy, and I'll be honest, it's not like I was dying or anything. I just poison everything and then wait for my ghoul and whatnot to pummel it to death, but still, I just wasn't having the greatest time.
You gotta burst those wounds, and then you gotta put that, like, desecrated ground up, and your bursted wounds, like, hit all of them or something. It's crazy.
But yeah, so there is a comic book that essentially follows the story of a character by the name of Thassarian. Thassarian was once a human of the kingdom of Lordaeron, and, only good things happened there, so we're going to talk about his rise into, well, what leads into the Wrath of the Lich King. So, the Thassarian was the son of a farmer turned into a soldier. Apparently, his dad and him used to work the good old fields, and he used to be like, remember, son, anyone who doesn't follow orders is destined to be a dog shit soldier. And he's like, yes, Dad, I will always aspire to be you. And he's like, good, son. And then we flash forward like 10 years or something like that. So he's like 18 years old now. And his dad's dead, obviously, because he turned into a soldier and went to go fight in the Second War. And this poor farmer probably got bodied by like some 600-pound orc wielding a great hammer or something.
As it goes.
As it does, yeah. So now he's stepping up to take care of his mother and his sister. And he's now hearing about the plague that's going around and how a bunch of these people are getting sick and that the prince is on a crusade across Lordaeron to stop it. And he, kind of following in his father's footsteps, is like, I need to protect my people as well. So he goes and he signs up for the military. And with this, he kind of tries over however long, I think it's like a few months. He's like, I want to become promoted. I want to be a corporal and lead. So there's like this competition where he's dueling with all of these other initiates, or whatever you want to call them. And he beats like 4 of them in like a 1-on-4 situation, and the last guy like throws a dagger that like bonks him in the head with the hilt of the dagger, and they're like, you lose. And I'm like, honestly, that seems crazy that you need to like solo 1-on-5 or some shit like that for them to be like, yeah, you know what, I think you're good enough to lead. Like,
was he just a farmer boy? Like, did he have previous training?
No, apparently he's just goated with the sauce.
He had that.
I mean, I guess he did
strength,
have previous
bro.
training.
I'm telling you, farmer
yeah, he's
strength
exactly
is
there. You
insane.
go. Yep. I think that's actually a hilarious way to look at it, I think.
Yeah.
But he fails this, and his sergeant comes over to him, and he's like, let me be honest with you. You just need to give up. He's like, we need good soldiers. Don't be a dreamer. Just go out there and die for the cause. Take orders like a good soldier, basically. And then he's like, sad face. And he remembers his dad being like, don't forget, son, you're not shit if you don't follow orders. And he's just like, I'm not shit if I don't follow orders, but apparently I'm not shit anyway. So he's all sad. And that's when his friend comes over to him and he's like, hey, did you hear the news? Prince Arthas is calling up all of the soldiers because apparently we need to go and venture to the land of Northrend. And he's like, oh, good. A time to serve my country, apparently. So he tells his mom and his sister, and he's like, goodbye, mom and sister. I'm going to go help Arthas be a good little soldier. She's crying. She's like, we could talk to people and get you out of this, that you don't have to go, because she's still kind of fucked up about the fact that their dad never came back. And he's like, no, I must go. I must answer. So he does. His mom gives him this amulet, and he leaves to go to Northrend. And they do some Warcraft 3 stuff where they hunt for Mal'Ganis. And as they do this, they end up destroying, or I guess having their own ships destroyed by mercenaries. And then they kill those mercenaries, not knowing that Arthas had set them up. And then so on and so forth, further down the rabbit hole, until eventually Arthas and this guy by the name of Captain Falric, who you'll see if you play the Warcraft 3 campaign, is like, we need to find the mysterious rune blade because Mal'Ganis' armies are pushing us to the brink. And he's like, okay, I'll go find them. So Arthas and this captain go off to go find this rune blade. And it seems like they're gone for like days or something like that in this manga, at least, because he's like, I have to go find them. I have to go save the prince. And Captain Falric, Thassarian, says this. And he goes off into the snow alone, where eventually he stumbles upon Frostborn Cavern. And he goes inside, and he's like, damn, it's dark in here. He's like, Captain Falric, are you in here? And he turns and he looks, and he's like, oh, you are in here. Bad news, though. You're a zombie. So Captain Falric's like, yeah, I am a zombie. And he stabs him in the chest.
Nice.
And kills him. And he's like, and you're going to be a zombie, too. And then Arthas resurrects Thassarian into undeath as a death knight as well.
Is this the Thassarian that's like, he's still relevant in the game, right?
I don't know how relevant, like I don't know, at least in this expansion, but yes, yeah, he exists in previous expansions, especially Legion.
Okay, and Shadowlands?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he does that, he dies, he comes back as a death knight. They wander around Northrend for however long, and eventually Arthas is like, well, it's been a jolly good time. Let's go back to Lordaeron. And they all hop on their boats and they sail back, or I guess they build some boats because they burnt them all. So they build some boats, they hop on their boats, and they leave back across to Lordaeron, where, everyone's ringing the bells and throwing the rose petals and all happy. And then Arthas murders the king, his father. And we do actually get to see, because you had asked, like, how fast does Lordaeron fall? In this manga, we actually get to see, because it literally says moments after Arthas kills the king. And it just shows the Scourge rampaging through Lordaeron's capital city.
Oh, my.
Yeah, so immediately was the correct answer. Day one.
And the Scourge was just killing everyone in Lordaeron?
Basically, yeah. Killing them, resurrecting them, turning them. And Arthas actually does some super evil villain shit. And he's like, hey, Thassarian, I found your mom, that you left behind. You should kill her and prove your loyalty to me. And he's just like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
And he does. And he beheads her. And with that, like, he does have a brief moment where he's like, what have I done? But then, he snaps back to being a good little pawn, and he rips off the amulet that his mom had given him and threw it to the floor.
Was this amulet anything special?
It doesn't seem like it. It just seems like a family, like, heirloom, kind of. It's not even, like, super special looking. It seems to be just, like, on string.
Okay.
Yeah. Then Arthas is like, all right, time to go move on to those high elves. So he gets his Scourge army. They begin to head over to the high elves, and they destroy that place as well. We've gone over this a good handful of times. If you're interested in hearing about that Lich King episode, Blood Elf episode, those sorts of things. And with that, Thassarian, for whatever reason, seems to have kind of been slightly knocked ajar from being completely under control of the Lich King, because while he's attacking these high elves, he comes across like this pair of brothers, and he like severely injures one of them, and then for a brief moment he has like memories of his own mother. I guess this pretty elf boy gave him memories of his mom. What can I say, bro? Them pretty elf boys.
Now, is this the...
And he ends up sparing this elf's life.
Is this the start of people being able to break away from the Lich King's grasp?
I guess so. I wouldn't say entirely, because I mean, like, Sylvanas will break free like pretty somewhat soon after this compared to how long it will take the Death Knights to break free. But yeah.
But you can see it can happen. There's hints of it.
Yeah. So after this, he leaves that person alive, and he's like, I won't kill you. I'm just going to take this moon crystal that I need to get into your city and kill everyone else, though. And he does. He leaves with that. And the brother of the person he spares, that guy then gets resurrected as a Death Knight as well. And ironically, because we're going to time skip forward a decent amount here, because this is like that Warcraft 3 era. Now we're going to be moving closer to the Wrath of the Lich King era after Arthas puts on the helm and everything like that. And apparently these two become real good friends. This blood elf and this Death Knight human. It's like our fates are intertwined, but perhaps it was meant to be. Maybe it's just me, but if somebody ended up killing me and then I got resurrected as an undead because of them,
yeah,
I'd be salty. I don't think we'd be cool like that.
No.
Yeah, I think I'd be really salty about that.
Yeah, I would too.
But alas, like I said, we move forward past the classic experience of World of Warcraft. We move forward past the Burning Crusade, like 1 year following the events of the Burning Crusade, of defeating Illidan and everything that happens with that. When the Lich King wakes up, and he's like, that was good. During this time frame, he's actually been like mentally wrestling his consciousness, Arthas, and Ner'zhul's for control over the Scourge. And we learn eventually that Arthas in this time does manage to become the essentially like singular holder over the Lich King. So Ner'zhul takes another L. Shocking, not really, but he wakes up. And this is where you see that Wrath of the Lich King cinematic, where it has the best music in World of Warcraft and my son speech as he resurrects the blue dragon Cinder Ghost as a frost worm. And you see his massive army of undead that he now has in Northrend.
I remember that cinematic. That's when you were like, holy shit.
Well, and to kind of bounce off what we spoke about in the comments today, like from the Burning Crusade expansion to the Wrath of the Lich King expansion cinematic, like that jump is so huge. Like, even though they remastered it, I think you can still watch like the 720p or 1080p version of the original 2008 Wrath of the Lich King cinematic. It is still fantastic, still cinematically just incredible.
Yeah, they outdid themselves when it came to the cinematics. That was the one, I mean, not one really good thing, but their cinematics were better than any other video game, right? So,
Naxxramas, that was previously flying over the Plague Lands, is like, all right, time to go meet up with the Lich King. So it floats back over to Northrend, where it will now reside over Dragonblight. And a new necropolis will appear above the Plague Lands in the Eastern Kingdoms, and that will be the necropolis known as Arceus, or Arcaris. I'm just going to call it the Ebon Hold, because that's the easier version. And it is where those Death Knights, remember Darian Morgraine that we spoke about, who is kind of Kel'Thuzad's champion? Yeah, he now leads all of the Death Knights from this location known as the Ebon Hold. And they've arrived because apparently there are some Scarlet Crusade members still kicking about, really causing some havoc for the Scourge, and they don't like that. So that is where we shift from just the manga into the actual Death Knight starting experience, which, Tim, when's the last time you played the Death Knight starting experience?
I played it again when Wrath re-released, because if you did it, you got a mount for even retail.
Oh, yeah.
Even retail, you got a mount.
Yeah.
So
it was that Frostworm.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But I also did it in 2008. I remember getting my hunter right to 55, or right before the expansion dropped, and then I made a Death Knight because you just needed a level, I think, 55. So yeah, and then I did that. It's a fun starting experience, man. You're like working for the Lich King, like before anyone breaks free from his hold. It's really cool.
like I told you, I just recently had leveled through the Death Knight stuff, just getting mine up because I have armor sets that I want for them nowadays because transmog has taken hold of me. But yeah, it's really good. Like, it's kind of slow to get starting, I think. But outside of that, like when you're actually doing the experience of going into this Scarlet Crusade encampment and scheming and sabotaging all their shit, stealing horses, torturing them and stealing horses and turning them into death chargers in an alternate reality, like it's some pretty cool stuff. And yeah, that's what you will be doing when you level through the first like 1 to 10 starting experience nowadays in the Wrath of the Lich King, or in the Death Knight starting zone, which is in this like I said, this area of the Eastern Kingdoms, in the Eastern Plagueland specifically, where it is just like slightly not as messed up as every other part of the Plaguelands. I think specifically because this group of the Scarlet Crusade is fighting so hard to just purge all undead from that land.
I assume you're going to talk about the really cool quest part, like the end, the fight for the chapel. Oh my gosh, that was an amazing quest.
We'll get there. But yeah, so as you are doing this quest line, after you get your horse and all of that, you begin to kind of tighten your grip across this area known as the Scarlet Enclave. And as they begin to like descend into a panic and like strip the mines of any valuable resources and load them all onto ships nearby and prepare for evacuation, you, like I said, you scheme to use their own cannons to kill a ton of them. You go and spread just chaos amongst all of their ranks by creating ghouls in their mines and whatnot. And that's when you're then set to go into their towns and find out about the cryptic, I guess, moniker that they're going by of the Crimson Dawn, or whatever this Crimson Dawn is. And yeah, like Tim said, you go in there, you use a torture stick to just pummel somebody until they scream in agony and go, "No, please." When I did that while leveling my Death Knight just recently, it took so many dudes. I killed like 7 guys on like just standing there whacking them without like casting or anything. I was like, please.
Wait.
Stop dying so fast.
You actually do this still? All of this stuff? I thought they took it out.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
No, you still do this. You can't. I was actually surprised that you can't do like Exile's Reach or anything in Death Knight. You have to do the Death Knight starting zone still. I think if you do an allied race, you might start past it because you start at 10 already.
Huh,
but yeah.
I didn't know that.
But yeah, as you venture deeper and deeper into this city of Tyr's Hand and New Haven and all that fun stuff, eventually you encounter what I think is the coolest quest in the Death Knight starting zone, where depending on your race, you're told to like go in and execute a prisoner. And as you go in, it's one of the people of your race, and they're like, yeah, we grew up, and they all have unique dialogue lines being like, you're a champion of the Dark Spear, because my character was a troll, so that's what he said to me. And he's like, we were brothers together, in, you know, the troll accent. And there are some that are like, we served under Arugal, if you were playing a Worgen or something like that. And I just think that having that individuality was a really cool touch, to have somebody from like your background appearing in this quest line.
And then you kill him.
And but again, it's like that moment kind of for Thassarian where you just have a little bit of a breakaway being like, maybe what I'm doing is wrong. And then you're like, nah, that's just a distraction. Back to it.
So does it still have you do the full Assault on Light's Hope Chapel?
On Lights? Oh, yes, you do. Yeah. You actually still have to wait 5 minutes for the instance to start, too, which is hilarious.
Yeah, dude. I remember that quest. So Wrath was like when they started actually doing cool quests. That quest was super cool.
So you go, you intercept a message from the Scarlet Crusade people being like, the Crimson Dawn is actually the Scarlet Crusade's grand scheme to go to Northrend and take the fight to the Lich King. And I mean, shocker, they don't like the Lich King, so that's their plan. And you end up like completely crushing most of the Scarlet Crusade members that exist in this area. And some of them do escape on boats, and they begin to head off towards Northrend, and you're like, we'll deal with that later. And then you mentioned it's after that, they're like, all right, cool, we've destroyed the Scarlet Enclave, we've decimated them. Now Darian Morgraine's like, come on up. I have a special mission for you. I need all of my best Death Knights to go to Light's Hope Chapel and kill those pesky Argent Dawn. And you're like, okay, cool, we'll do that. So you, Thassarian, as well as Darian Morgraine, you do this instance where you attack the Light's Hope Chapel. And it isn't known to them. I mean, it does become clear as you do the mission, but the reason that you're actually even getting sent to do this 10,000 Scourge versus 300 Argent Dawn mission is not necessarily because the Lich King even thinks that you will survive, but basically he's like, if I just send enough Death Knights, that'll bring Tirion Fordring out of hiding, and then I can capture or turn him. So that's his whole kind of secret agenda of why you're even attacking this place. Because apparently 300 Argent Dawn defenders on what they constantly talk about is like sacred ground. That's all you need, because they whoop you. Like it takes a while, and you can kill as many of them as you want, but eventually it'll just be like they're knocked unconscious, and then Tirion will show up and just whoop all of you.
Yeah, they use exorcism.
So with that being the case, you're kind of like sitting there and you're like, why can't I defeat you? And all that angry shit. And Tyrion's just like, you'll never take the light guides me. I am, super cool and all that. And then that is when Darian actually sees his father appear next to him. You remember how when he previously had the corrupted Ashbringer, his dad showed up and killed his other son because he was a shithead? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he appears to him again, and he's like, my son, you have been struck by treachery and hopelessness. You must turn on Arthas and be cooler. And he's like, Dad, I'm so sorry. And they go to hug and stuff. And then the Lich King shows up. And he's like, well, that's so sweet. Anyway, Alexandros, you're a soul. I kind of really control souls, so get into this soul gem. And he throws Alexandros' soul into a soul gem. And we'll handle that quest later. But yeah, just know that's where Alexandros ends up. I will say, something they don't actually show when you're doing the instance itself is that, like, it's said that Thassarian's father also appears to him as well. And, like, he's like, Father, I'm so sorry. The kind of a similar experience that Darian has. And I feel like when you read about it in the Chronicle, it mentions, like, everyone sees their dead parents. And I'm just like, oh. But, yeah, it's not something I feel like you actually see in game. But, yeah, that is when the Lich King's like, yep, I sent them all to die because I just wanted to find you, Tirion. And now I'm going to beat your ass. And Darian Morgraine's like, no, you traitor. So he goes to turn and attack the Lich King. And the Lich King just kind of swats a finger and sends him quite literally flying across the room. It is so anime. Dude, they make the Lich King so anime.
Is it like comically? Like he just...
Oh, dude, like he literally like the slightest swat of his arm and he just goes like, I'm not even exaggerating, like 50 feet away. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. But then he's like, anyway, here, Tirion, handle this. And he throws him the Ashbringer, that corrupted Ashbringer. And Tirion grabs this corrupted Ashbringer, and he's just like, hey, I'm Tirion Fordring. And the Ashbringer magically becomes uncorrupted.
I'm telling you, it's that fucking, what was it? It was a chaos orb. It absorbs whatever energy you're giving it. Like, if you're giving it holy energy, it's holy, all right?
I suppose so. It's just, what is really frustrating about it is that, again, like we mentioned back when we very first talked about the Ashbringer, when Darian Morgraine runs the blade through his chest and this like massive beam of light comes down and kills all these Scourge, wouldn't that have been a way cooler moment for the Ashbringer to purify? And then like Tirion walks over and he pulls the blade out and he's like, good job, lad, or something like that, and it's all healed and whatnot. There would be no difference in that storyline leading into this one, except that one is just better.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So that's my take on it. I think this is kind of lazy, at the very least, like, short-sighted. But, hey, we love having the Ashbringer. The Ashbringer is cool. Tirion Fordring, now wielding the Ashbringer, charges at Arthas. And he actually, being on, it says, like, this sacred ground of the Light's Hope Chapel, and now wielding this, basically the greatest anti-undead weapon in existence manages to force Arthas away. And Arthas is all butthurt as he's leaving away, and he's like, well, next time we will not be on consecrated ground, so know that I'm gonna whoop your ass next time, as he runs away.
So this hurt him.
I guess so. I guess like something about this tiny little church at the edge of, I mean, we know why it's special. Like we talked about, it has like thousands of the greatest warriors that have ever existed in like human existence buried underneath it. So that's why it's so important to even the Lich King and whatnot. But still, it's surprising. I mean, I guess it's not surprising when you think about how the expansion ends. But I guess, again, they make the Lich King seem so anime and so overpowered, like he's a Thanos-like figure.
But a church.
Religion! Thank you for tuning in to Tides of Lore. If you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow adventurers. Your support makes all the difference. Thank you. But yeah, so that now brings the next stage of the Wrath of the Lich King. Basically, that's kind of the stuff that goes on just before we're actually really playing the game. And now it is time for the release of the expansion and stuff like that. So Tyrion Fordring is like, hey guys, after that confrontation at Light's Hope Chapel, I think we should all unite together with the Order of the Silver Hand and the Argent Dawn, and we should go head to the north and face Arthas and Icecrown. And they form into what is now known as the Argent Crusade, which, important people, remember them.
So the Argent Dawn is something different. They're basically
it was
the
just
same,
kind of
right?
the predecessor. Yeah, basically the same, just kind of the predecessor.
This one is going to Northrend. The other one is in...
Well, one is... It turned into the other.
Okay.
Like the Argent Dawn was first, and then it became the Crusade.
Gotcha.
So one kind of doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. So with that, there's also the birth of the group known as the Knights of the Ebon Blade. So now with Darian Morgraine and Thassarian and that other blood elf, like I mentioned, by the name of Koltira, who are all these death knights, including your player character, who have now broken away, you are kind of now vowing to fight alongside the Argent Crusade and go atone for your past atrocities by turning your wrath on Arthas. And your first order of business is they're like, hey, we taught you how to magically teleport back to our home base, so go do that, because we're just going to kill everybody in there. And you do. You now teleport away from here, you go back to the Ebon Hold, and you just kill anybody who's not down with the new leadership. And after that, then you go and you talk with Darian, and he's like, all right, guys, we need you to head back to your old factions and tell them that we are joining up with the gang to go fight Arthas in Northrend. And that's where you have Thassarian rejoining the Alliance. He goes to Stormwind, where he'll talk with Avarian Rin and be like, hey, we're gonna work with you to deal with these undead that are about to be everywhere. And I mean, in this manga, you really see just how much people hate the Scourge, because as he's like walking through Stormwind to get to the keep, everyone's just like spitting on him and smashing fruit in his face and shit like that as he's walking by. And then he gets to Varian, and Varian's like, you got about 5 seconds before I turn you into a puddle on the floor. Like literally something like that.
I mean, this sounds like when you're a Death Knight and you have to go back to your major city.
I might have ran through it too fast because I don't remember this. But yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and people are literally throwing food at you, calling you a dog. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just cool. I like that. But yeah, so also, like I mentioned, there was Koltira, who will end up talking with Thassarian, and even though they're like, we're best buddies, I think I should join the Alliance too. He's like, no. Go be with your people. Be with the Horde. So he goes and he becomes the representative for the Horde Death Knights. And now they are kind of preparing to face the threat of Arthas when those dang mysterious grain shipments show up. If you guys remember back when the first time the Scourge kind of ripped through the Eastern Kingdoms, it started with plagued grain. And when you play World of Warcraft leading into the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, it also starts with Plagued Grain.
So is this a pre-patch then? Wrath of the Lich King?
Yes, the pre-patch.
This is the same timeline as that.
Yep. I mean, this is where across like all the capitals in the game itself, you would have a bunch of infected grain crates where if somebody went over and clicked on them, they would have like 10 minutes before they would turn into a ghoul and then become hostile to everybody and start infecting other people. Kind of like how we mentioned in the instance of Classic where they had the blood plague with a car. This time in this expansion, they actually created a plague that they wanted to go around. And I think we kind of as a community kind of all agree that this was like the coolest pre-patch event that kind of ever happened, right? I mean, they tried to redo it a few other times, but it wasn't as inspired, I feel like.
Some people hated it, but I liked it. And I remember you could be a ghoul and just run in and explode and just like kill yourself, but affect and kill everything around you.
Yep. And as the days went on, as you were playing this, it would more and more like you would get more damage as ghouls, you would get more health as ghouls and stuff like that. So as the plague kind of progressed throughout the days of this pre-patch experience, you would have more and more dangerous enemies that you'd be facing of your own players and stuff like that in this plague that was going around. But yes, so the Argent Crusade is like desperately trying to cure this and purify people before they turn into that, when a bunch of Scourge necropoli appear over these major cities, and it leads to what is the Horde and the Alliance meeting in Shatrath City. And they're like, hey guys, I know we met back in Theramore, like however long ago, and that kind of blew up, but shit's kind of popping off nowadays. Maybe we should call it a truce for just a little bit. And they do actually agree. So they're like, all right, cool. They shake hands on it, go back to their major cities, and now they are full on both focusing on facing off against the Scourge threat and the Lich King. And through the Horde and the Alliance's cooperation and sacrifice, they do manage to halt the Scourge's advance across Azeroth. And by this time, they begin to plan a counterattack to go to Northrend and attack the Lich King themselves.
Like Horde and Alliance together. Is this?
I mean, not together, but they're just like, hey, if I see you over there, we're not beefing more than we're beefing with the Lich King right now.
Unless you're on a PvP server.
Yeah, unless I need just a little bit more honor. So this all kind of culminates with Stormwind and Orgrimmar being attacked by like frostworms and abominations. And with these being successfully repelled, they begin what is known as the Horde Expedition and the Alliance Vanguard, and launch kind of a relentless assault against Northrend. And as they land in different spots, I think there is both a Horde and Alliance zone in the Howling Fjord and the Borean Tundra, right?
Yeah.
So one of those two places, depending on if you go from the Undercity one or if you go from the boat and wherever, is where you'll end up. And that is when the campaign against the Lich King begins. And that's kind of where we check back in with Thassarian. Thassarian ends up joining up with the Alliance Vanguard, and specifically this group known as the Valiance Expedition. And I believe this is in the Dragonblight area. I could be wrong on that. Regardless, he joins up with them, and quickly he's actually given an entire unit. The leader of this place, by the name of Counselor Talbot, or one of these leaders, is like, hey, you're just like a really cool guy and I really like you. I'm going to have you lead all of these really other cool guys, and you guys should go over to this ziggurat. You can totally handle it. I hear it's like unguarded, and then you can turn the weapons on the Lich King. And they're just like, okay. And Thassarian, who's kind of always wanted to lead troops, is like, this is my time to shine. And unfortunately, they go, and as they arrive, it is very clearly a trap, and they are just absolutely overwhelmed. And he summons up his ghoul pet. And like I mentioned, this is the edgiest manga on the planet, because I am not even joking when I tell you that this man reverse grips dual-wielded rune blades. And I'm just like, interesting.
Well, he always is dual wielding, so yeah, I could see him doing some switching it up. You know?
I guess, yeah. I'm getting like Star Killer vibes.
But
yeah, he kills. There you go, some Levi type shit. But yeah, He walks into this ambush, and basically everyone under his command dies. So short-lived that was. He realizes that he'd actually been set up and sent to go, kind of walk into another trap and die again, kind of like when he was betrayed by the Lich King. But he's like, regardless, I'm going to figure out what's going on here. So he goes into this ziggurat, and he just solos this entire dungeon, apparently, because he kills, like, everybody. He even comes across a lich inside, and he, like, interrogates him by holding his phylactery hostage. And then the lich is like, please, just spare my phylactery. And he's like, you lost mercy a long time ago. And he destroys it and kills him.
Nice.
So yeah, apparently he's pretty goated. That farmer strength comes in handy. That's when he teleports to the top of this ziggurat. And he's like, who is running this place? And he sees Counselor Talbot, who is actually Prince Valinar, one of these kind of blood vampires.
A sand
It's kind of hard to tell.
It's a
sand lane. That's true. I'm trying to describe them, but yes, they're called the Sand Lane, and they're like elves, and they're like vampires, and we'll talk more about them. But regardless, he's one of these princes, and he is just like, I was trying to play you this entire time, and he actually has Thassarian's sister hostage because she had arrived earlier, being like, I'm looking for my brother, who she doesn't know is alive yet, and he's just like, never heard of him, and then I assume like 5 minutes later is like, get in the van. But, these manga make it kind of quick. He kills him in like 2 panels, and he's like, and you're dead. Anyway, my sister and this other general guy who's also there because, stakes. He's like, you're free. And his sister is just like, oh, please come home. We can be a family again. And then he's like, no, I have cooler, edgier things to go to. And he's like, I promise that I will come see you again. And that is kind of where his story ends. This is where the manga does end, as you see him like ominously walking towards Ice Crown. But I will say something that is interesting is that recently with the 20th anniversary, we had this event where Lil Walker Cho would tell a story. And one of these stories was the story of Thassarian, right?
Oh, yeah.
And at the end of this story, he would actually tell you he's actually never went back and saw his sister ever again, despite the fact that he's still alive today and all this shit's happened. And I'm like, well, that's fucked up.
You kind of lose a piece of your humanity when you become undead, I feel. You can't blame him. Some families hated seeing their undead.
But she wanted him back.
Hey,
she wasn't one of those families.
What can you tell me about the Sand Lane? That never truly made sense to me. Vampire blood elves.
I can't tell you anything because I don't know.
Okay.
I will tell you about them probably when we get closer to the actual like ICC raid and we talk about their leader person. But yeah, at the moment, I don't really know.
All right, we'll find out.
Yes, indeed. But we did have one final topic that we needed to cover today, and that was those Scarlet Crusade arriving.
Oh, don't they become cooler? They're like the edgier version.
Oh, yes. Yeah, see, they arrive in Northrend, and they're like, wow, this place is so edgy. We need to be edgier. So this person by the name of High General Bridget Abadenis, God, these names are something crazy, is just like, hey, Scarlet Crusade, we lost a few boats on the way over, but regardless, the plan is still on track. So they're like, we're going to build a city right here in Dragonblight. And they start founding their new city of New Hearthglen. And they're like, all right, guys, the Crimson Dawn is upon us. We will bring the fight to the Lich King and destroy him with our might. And that's when a man by the name of Admiral Barian Westwind arrives. And he's like, hey, I'm back. I know that you thought you lost me at sea like literally 5 years ago. But I washed up on shore here, and I am now here to help you lead. And the Scarlet Crusade leader, that lady that we were talking about, Abadenis, regardless, the Scarlet Crusade leader is like, okay, yeah, sure. I don't see how this could possibly go wrong. And even though that is the case, she's like, I'm going to definitely keep you at arm's length because something tells me that you are a snake in the grass. But regardless, she is now listening to this Westwind figure. And also, in this area, it doesn't make this super clear, but I thought that I'd mention it because we have now mentioned it in the story. You go there in Warcraft 3. But for whatever reason, the Scarlet Onslaught, as they're now called here, because again, edgier, they're all fortifying. They're going across like Dragonblight and fortifying and Ice Crown and fortifying, but they also end up inside the Frostmourne Cavern. The cavern where you originally take up the Blade of Frostmourne when you're playing the Warcraft 3 campaign. And there's like a short quest line where you go in there, but it doesn't really make this clear why they're in there, but they are, for whatever reason, fortifying this cave. It's just something I thought that I'd mention.
That's interesting. And what's in that cavern right now? It's just what was in there. Nothing.
I don't think anything. I think when you go in there, you get a vision of Arthas taking up Frostmourne, but I don't think you actually... I think it's literally like you can see Arthas's old hammer laying on the floor. I think you see Muradin's like old axe laying on the floor or something like that. But you don't really see anything else. But regardless, now the united forces of the Alliance and Horde show up with the Ebon Blade, and the Scarlet Onslaught's just kind of completely psychotic. Like we mentioned before, they were already like huge zealots, and they were already kind of on board with being like, well, you don't follow what I think, so I'm just going to kill you. And now they are even more down that path, as they've been through a lot of pretty traumatic shit, and they're just pretty much near insane at this point. And you fight with them. You go to learn more about this figure, this Admiral Westwind, as you kind of are sent on missions by the Ebon Blade to go in and find out more about these Crusaders. And eventually you do go in and you face off against this Archbishop. And upon doing this, I think you literally like kill him and then interrogate his soul, if I remember correctly. And as you do this, he's like, yeah, actually, Westwind's hiding in this secret location behind the cathedral known as the Hidden Hollow. And you're like, all right, cool, we'll go handle that. So you go into the Hidden Hollow and you go to fight Admiral Westwind. And as you do it, shocker, shocker, it isn't just a human. It is, in fact, the Dreadlord Mal'Ganis.
I was just going to ask, is the Scarlet Onslaught still being led by a Dreadlord? You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yep. So, I mean, I don't know if we entirely, like, fully mentioned it, but back in Classic, you do end up killing Sadean Dathrohan and the Dreadlord that was inside of him, and now you get to this leader, and you're like, wow, you guys are really just susceptible to Dreadlords, aren't you?
Well, they're fanatics, they're zealots. They're easily swindled, you know?
Yep. But for the most part, that is the introduction, getting into the realm of Northrend as we prepare to face off against the myriad of threats that we will see up here in this land. Did you have any other questions before we call? Anything else you wanted to say?
I want to know more about the Sand Lane. They're interesting. They're technically elves, right? Blood elves, my race. I hope to learn more.
I think they're like really intertwined in the Crystal Song Forest stuff, so we'll definitely check it out, especially as we move more into the magic side of stuff as we talk about Malygos and all the crazy shit that's gonna happen.
There's not that many vampires in the game, you know?
I mean, yeah, I guess that's fair. I feel like all of the, what's it called?
Venthyr?
The Venthyr, yeah, that shit's very vampire.
It's vampire-esque, sure, but I don't think they're actually vampires like the Sand Lane are.
Yeah, and that's fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are excited to be moving into the Wrath of the Lich King with you guys. If you have made it this far, drop us a like or a subscribe or a 5 stars if you're on Spotify. We've been seeing crazy support, and we really do appreciate it. So thank you so much, and we will talk with you guys next week. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this episode. Your guys' support truly means the world to us. If you're interested in hearing more, we have our full show on YouTube and Spotify, new episodes dropping every Tuesday. I also want to take this moment to give a special thank you to Fantasy Lo-Fi for providing the music for this episode. You can find them on YouTube at Fantasy Lo-Fi or on Spotify under Bits and Hits. Be sure to show them some love, as their music does truly bring this journey to life. Once again, thank you for joining us on Tides of Lore, and we will see you next week.